With Game 6 just around the corner, we have a bunch of news on this series to break down as we enter the most important game in the Scotiabank Arena since the 2019 championship season. We got some announcements from Doc Rivers, some things he's trying to scheme up for Game 6. Scottie Barnes is making some great quotes. Boucher speaks out on the Sixers fans, and a Fred VanVleet injury update, which might be interesting to some people. So without further ado, let's dive straight into it. Hello everybody, Ben Rogers here, the Raptors Digest, breaking down all things Raptors, Sixers in this wild series. But before we dive straight into it, I got a quick announcement for the Digest media brand. We just launched a new channel called F1 Digest. If you're a fan of Formula 1, check out Tyson and Mark making some great content over there. I'll link the channel below in the description, but quality stuff. But without further ado, let's dive straight into the Raptors news. And the first thing we're talking about is Doc Rivers making some adjustments. Now, the chess match between Doc Rivers, the doctor, and Nick Nurse, it's been interesting to watch over the course of the series because I admit it, even as a Nick Nurse stan, I thought Doc Rivers coached his butt off in the first couple games of the series, making some solid adjustments. Clearly saw that Fred VanVleet wasn't able to guard Tyrese Maxey, gave him the ball consistently, let him drive, let him run free with the offense. I thought he switched to zones, switched up the defensive schemes a bunch. I thought he used Niang and Danny Green and the role players properly in the first few games of the series. So I gotta give credit where credit is due. He's been trashed on and bagged on by NBA media for the past couple seasons since he blew that third 3-1 lead, but I think he's done a good job this series. Now, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in Game 6. Now, apparently, he sort of alluded to the Sixers potentially playing faster in Game 6. That's sort of what, obviously they're keeping it ambiguous, they're keeping it vague, they can't give out all the secrets as they enter this wildly important game, but apparently the Sixers want to play faster going into this Game 6, and this is interesting because the Sixers, watching them play from the eye test, they almost lull you to sleep. James Harden's just rocking the ball back and forth, waiting for the players to be perfectly set so he can make that drive. Not as quick as he used to, but, try to splice the defense with cross-court passes or dimes to Joel Embiid. Joel himself likes to catch the ball in that mid-post area and drive his way in, post up, draw those fouls, and usually the game just traditionally, regardless of who they're playing against, looks very slow from Philadelphia. So them playing fast, kind of, for, people call them the foul baiters, whatever you want to call them, right? They do succeed in drawing fouls. I don't know if playing faster is necessarily going to help that. Obviously, you see why that might be the case because the Raptors all 6'9" lineup with Scottie Barnes, OG Anunoby, even Gary Trent Jr., even though he's not tall, he's a great stealer, right? Thaddeus Young, Chris Boucher, Precious Achiuwa, Pascal Siakam, whoever you want to throw out there, Kem Birch. That's a ridiculously hard lineup to score on in the half court. So speeding it up might not let the Raptors defense get set, throw those double teams and all that. But what you sacrifice in, or when you speed the game up, while the Raptors defense might not be able to be set, those arms are still long. Our team is still much faster than Philadelphia. Quicker, better pace, right? Better condition. People are raving about Pascal Siakam's conditioning right now. And the Sixers have been turning the ball over a bunch in those two losses following the Toronto Raptors, right? They've almost had double the turnovers of the Toronto Raptors team in the previous two games. So speeding it up against this long-armed athletic lineup, that defense that's on a string, you're risking a lot more potential turnovers. And obviously James Harden in closeout games has had a history of turning over the basketball. Joel Embiid in the previous series against the Toronto Raptors and Marcus Hall and stuff had a bunch of turnovers per game. So you're taking that risk there, but I see why Doc Rivers doesn't want to go up against the Raptors set defense. So who knows? It's going to be interesting. Obviously, Tyrese Maxey's a trailblazer. He's like the Brazilian Blur, or the, wherever Maxey's from, Blur. Shout out Leandro Barbosa. I didn't think I'd be referencing him on this podcast, but that's something to watch out for in Game 2 if the Sixers do start playing faster. But our next topic of discussion is, in this one, a Fred VanVleet injury update. Now, obviously, Fred VanVleet, Raptors All-Star, got a Finals MVP vote. He is an integral piece to this Raptors team, and I've seen a lot of people trash on the guy, given his performance this series, but he has been injured. He's been injured before he went out with the hip thing. His knee has been bothering him. Missed the last 3 games of the regular season. Fred VanVleet has not been himself over the course of this series. However, obviously missing half of Game 4 and then Game 5, he is listed as questionable for Game 6 in this series. And Sam Cassell, according to Kendrick Perkins, apparently said it was a blessing for the Raptors that Fred VanVleet went out. I don't know if that's the direct quote, but that's been the theme from a lot of Raptors fans. And I tend to agree with it in the sentiment that a hobbled Fred VanVleet is not valuable to this team. We love and respect our guy for trying to push through an injury, provide for, earn his contract, do his thing for the Raptors. He's the leader. You want to see him pushing through injuries. You don't want to see him sucking and doing all this stuff, sitting out. But the fact that he isn't, naturally long, he plays, his elite defense comes from an ability to be quick, use his strength, and do all these sorts of things, pick pockets. He's not able to do that on one leg, and he was getting destroyed at the point of attack with Tyrese Maxey there. So if Fred VanVleet is fully healthy, that knee, that hip is fully recovered, it's a plus. Bring him back, let him play, let him do his thing, right? But if Fred VanVleet is still questionable, right, still a little bit hobbled, let them rest. The Raptors are better suited. They're better off, especially on the defensive end of the floor, especially against the Sixers team, even though I think it's overblown. Fred VanVleet struggles. People remember that infamous, that infamous photo he had there a few months back. That was against Philadelphia from some big shots from Fred VanVleet, right? He's an immense part of this team. He's integral to this Raptors squad, but unhealthy, let him rest. Let him rest, but we'll see what happens. Would you guys want to see Fred VanVleet come back early from his injury, or probably wait up till round 2? Kyle Lowry is resting up that hammy too to try and face that Toronto Raptors team. Not to get ahead of ourselves, but the third thing we're talking about in this video is Chris Boucher speaking out on the Sixers fans. Now, if you caught the end of last game, there was a lot of Sixers fans leaving the stadium, doing their thing. They left in waves as the Raptors made play after play to close out that game in the away arena. But if you peep the top corner of your screen, you saw Precious Achiuwa and Chris Boucher hollering at some fans, chirping back to some fans. And Chris Boucher, I don't have the direct quote in front of me, but he talked about how the Sixers fans are pretty ruthless and pretty harsh with their words to the Raptors bench. If you ever watched not even a basketball game, clearly a basketball game, but an NBA game, a CEBL game, right, and you're kind of close to the bench, you hear a lot of guys on the bench. They can hear what's happening the first few rows there, and Precious and Boucher had a few things to say for the Sixers fans, chirping back at them, but they say it's all fun. It's nice to, for the Raptors to get some wins so they can throw some things back at the Sixers. Says he's ready to go for this game. So interesting to hear that the Philly fans are being a bit ruthless with the Raptors, especially in a loss, especially as they were walking out of the arena. But cool to see Chris Boucher ready, fired up, ready to go. But finally, the last thing I'm sort of diving into, the last topic of discussion is Scottie Barnes. Awesome quote. He's saying that he is feeling ready to go. He's feeling great mentally, physically, and that's exactly what we want to hear from Scottie Barnes. Both mentally, because we've seen it from a lot of NBA players. You get to these bigger games, especially young guys, they shrink from the moment. It's what happens with younger players. They make mistakes and all that sort of stuff. But to see Scottie just salivating at the chance to just keep pushing away in the clutch, tense, grueling series where every game is an elimination game that you've been in since you've been back. It's great to see that mentally he's holding up well to the pressure of being a guy that's thrown in at the point guard position, replacing your all-star guard, ready to go, taking on that challenge. And obviously the big thing, physically. Scottie Barnes is physically feeling great. At the end of Game 5, you saw him limp a little bit off the court. He looked fine during the game, but at the end, you don't have to push through. You can sort of take that weight off, and he was clearly limping there. So the 2 days of rest have hopefully done Scottie Barnes well. He is going to be key. He's going to be a major, massive key to the Raptors winning Game 6, just as he has been for Games 4 and 5. But, folks, I don't want any predictions. I don't want anything crazy. Just let me know your thoughts, your feelings as we inch closer and closer to this game tomorrow. I am absolutely excited, ready to get this thing rocking, ready to watch this thing off. But you guys are best for making this far. Check out the Instagram, the Twitter, the TikTok, all that cool stuff. As mentioned, F1 Digest, it's launched. It's ready to go. So check them out on YouTube. Got some cool videos. You like some racing and stuff. If not, just show them love. Subscribe helps us out big time, helps out Tyson Mark. But anyways, enough of me rambling. Raps fighting for this W tomorrow. You guys are the best. I'm signing off. Cheers.